the country team lead for South African chapter of G4G. Twice or thrice a year, we normally host a coordinators meet and greet. And this is usually for lead coordinators, mentor coordinators, and mentee coordinators. And we also invite people who are interested in being lead coordinators but don't have the experience. And everybody shares their thoughts, their experiences, ideas for improvement, etc. And at our last coordinators meet and greet, one issue that came up was that quite a few mentors are a little bit intimidated at leading or joining online cohorts because they don't have the technical skills to manage breakaway rooms and things like that. So that's how I got the idea to find someone to just do an A to Z of mastering online meetings. So obviously not just for G4G, but for, for your work and et cetera, et cetera. Duwa is a dear friend. She used to live in Johannesburg. I met her when she was a guest speaker in a cohort that I was mentoring in, and I was very intrigued by her story, so I followed her up and introduced G4G to her. And the next thing, she became a mentor, and then she's also the founder of G4G Malawi. Dua has recently, after being very, very active in the South African chapter, she was running our fundraising committee. She was part of training. She participated in M&E. She's recently moved to Kenya a few months ago, and has kindly agreed to give us this 1 hour so that everyone can be fully equipped, and so more and more people will have the confidence to join the online cohorts. So over to you, Dua. Thank you so much for your time, and we're looking forward to the session.
Thank you so much, Sheila. So I'm going to start with what we always do to ground ourselves, which is my sister's keeper. Let me share my screen here, actually. All right. I'm just going to make this bigger so that we can see it. And then if I could have a volunteer who will, if everybody can make sure they're on mute, and if I can have a volunteer who will help me by reading out my sister's keeper, please. Okay, Jeanette, go for it.
Hi, Queens. Good evening. Nice to see you, Dua. Sheila, you are looking fabulous. Let's get the energy, ladies. I am my sister's keeper. I will build my sister up. I will encourage her. I will empower her, and I will pray for her. I have no reason to talk about her, tear her down, be jealous of her, or compete with her. I am going to stand behind her and help her, push her into her destiny. Pray, sister, pray.
Yay, thank you so much, Jeanette, for bringing in the energy and so that we can start. And for those of you who, I'm assuming most of you have been, are familiar with G4G. If you haven't been, if you're not familiar with G4G, we are a leadership mentoring program. And so part of our leadership in this day and age is being able to run meetings, whether that's in person or more and more we're starting to see online. So let's get into it. I'm going to start, by sharing my screen. And I'd like to tell you that I constantly complain about Zoom because I feel like they've had, what is this, 3 or 4 years since the pandemic when we all started using this in earnest, and they should be doing a lot better with it than they are. And you'll see, and this is what causes a lot of people to feel a little bit nervous about Zoom, is because some of the usage of it is a little bit clunky, for lack of a better word. That's my technical word for it, meaning it's not always user-friendly, but they're getting better. And so I constantly have to up my knowledge of Zoom as new features come out, I guess, as they start getting the different feedback, right? So let's get started. Let's get to the meat of what we're doing. Hello and welcome, everyone. My name is Duwa Mutharika, and I'll be your facilitator today. Thank you for the wonderful introduction, Sheila. And so this is Zoom Mastery A to Z of running seamless online meetings. Also, another thing I'd call it is Zoom 101. As you get more proficient at Zoom, you'll start adding in some of the more advanced things. But these is the basics that I want you to just kind of at least hear about. And then if you're curious about, you can look up more YouTube videos. Sometimes if you haven't heard about something before, the YouTube videos tend to confuse more than they do help. So hopefully this will demystify a lot of this, a lot of the stuff. So I'm a leadership executive and wellness coach, as well as a consultant and a digital nomad. Over the past 5 years, I've had privilege of working with clients, organizations, and teams across the globe, from Malaysia to Kazakhstan to US to all over Africa. And more than 80% of that work has, of course, been conducted online via apps like Zoom. So when I say I live on Zoom, I really mean it. I would not call myself a expert, but I make my way around it. And for somebody who's in the fifth floor, so I'm 51 now, you know, the Gen Zs make fun of us and say that we are really like tech. We're really bad at tech, you know, and we're tech averse. I feel I'm doing pretty good. So just to let you know, it's never too late to learn. If this old lady can learn, you can learn too. So from coaching senior leaders and facilitating group wellness programs to running workshops, master classes across time zones, I've seen what works, what causes chaos, and what helps create professional glitch-free virtual spaces. So today I'm going to walk you through the exact tools, tips, and settings I use to lead powerful, polished, peaceful, most of the time, Zoom sessions, depending on where I am on the continent and how the internet is, because sometimes that causes stress, but I'll talk to you about how to deal with that. So whether you're hosting your first online meeting or looking to level up, this training is here to make your virtual presence feel effortless and impactful. So let's talk some facts before we get into the nitty-gritty of Zoom so that you see the impact Zoom has on the world. According to stats in 2019, 300 million to 350 million daily meeting participants joined on Zoom, up from 10 million in 2019. So in 10 million, before the COVID started, it was about 10 million. After COVID, it's about 350 million. Zoom is used in plus 200 countries. Its user base peaking at 43 countries. In August 2020, it was about 43 countries. It's now about 120. The average meeting size is about 7 participants, and the average meeting duration is about 52 minutes, and about 40, almost 50% of those meetings include screen sharing, okay? Like what I just did when I shared the screen. So now we're gonna get into the nitty-gritty of what happens with Zoom, okay? And I'm also at some point going to be talking about the different etiquette for Zoom, but we'll get to that in a minute. So let's start by breaking the ice. I want you to use your chat box, please. And I want you to start a quick poll and say, what is your biggest Zoom headache? Okay, so think of one word that describes how you feel about hosting Zoom meetings. If something happens right now, my chandelier falls and I say, oh no, I have to pick somebody to do the rest of the meeting. How would you feel about that? Give me one word. I want to see one word that that describes how you feel about hosting. And this will give us a sense of the room and it will set the tones for our interaction. So let's start putting them into the chat, please. What are your feelings about Zoom? Frazzled. Oh, goodness gracious, Charity. I can imagine. They frazzle me now still. Inadequate. Okay. Nerve-wracking. Goodness, yeah. Uncertain, anxious. Creating breakaway rooms. Eek, I love that. Apprehensive. Uh-huh. Let's see what else we've got. Okay, so the general consensus is Zoom is nausea-inducing. We don't feel good when we think about having to do a Zoom session. All right, so today's session will be about building your confidence, and I want you to walk away with knowing some solid Zoom facts, like how to set up a schedule, secure your Zoom meetings, how to manage your participants, including muting, chatting, spotlighting, which, by the way, I will be muting you if you come off mute and I'm hearing you talk to somebody else in the middle of this meeting. How to use tools like screen sharing, music, breakaway rooms, recording with zero tech stress, how to prevent glitches that throw you off your game. And so Zoom is more than just clicking a link. It's a platform that can showcase your leadership and professionalism. So my goal is to help you feel ready to lead your next meeting without having to say, can you hear me now? But I may have to say that at some point today. So let's dive in while the water's warm. Right. So we're going to start with the very beginning, which is scheduling the meeting. We haven't even gotten to the meeting yet, but right now we're going to sit and we're going to think about how do we schedule the meeting. For those of you who have the Zoom app and you have it available, if you have it on your phone or something, follow along. That's a really good way for you to learn, is by also learn by doing, okay? For those of you who don't have it, don't worry. I have a little cheat sheet that I've made. And so I will make sure to find out how we can get that to you. Since you've been in the call today, how we can get the cheat sheet to you so that you can, you know, look very, very clever at your next meeting. Right. So scheduling your meeting. You can do this either through the Zoom desktop app, your browser, or the mobile app. Personally, I recommend the desktop version because it gives you all the advanced settings, right? And I'm going to show you this in a minute. But so let's walk through the options you have to pay attention to when you're scheduling. You've got to look at things like enabling the waiting room. This acts as a virtual lobby where your participants wait until you admit them. And it gives you time to get settled, to test your audio and chat privately with co-hosts before letting them in. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to mute participants on entry. This prevents background noise from becoming a distraction. People can always unmute themselves, but it helps keep things smooth at the start. Okay. Then you can require, if you're sending this out to like thousands of people and you're worried about cyber security and stuff like that, you can require a meeting password. And this adds an extra layer of security and prevents unwanted visitors, especially, like I said, important if you're hosting a large group. This is one that the next one I'm about to say, we often miss this and it causes chaos. Choose the correct time zone. So choose the time zone you're going to be in. As a person who goes back between South Africa and Kenya, this has done my head in, because in my mind, this daylight savings time rubbish and different time zones is only in Europe. Here in Africa, we're all on the same time zone in my little mind, which is not true. So I've had a couple of panics over the past couple of weeks. of realizing I'm supposed to be on a call right this very minute, you know. So double check the time zone. The good news is once the invite gets to the next person, it will be at their time zone. So that's the good part about it, is you don't have to worry about their time zone, but just make sure you put it in the right time zone for you. And then add the meeting to your calendar. Zoom lets you automatically generate a calendar invite for Google Calendar, Outlook, or Yahoo. I highly recommend this as it keeps things organized and makes rescheduling easier. So one pro tip, once the meeting is scheduled, click copy invitation, paste it into an email with a short friendly message, the meeting agenda, and any reminders you have, right? So that's just one way you can give your Zoom meetings just a little bit of extra panache. So I'm going to stop sharing this screen for 1 minute because I want us to go into my Zoom app. Okay, so sorry, I want the full screen. I think it's going to make me go another way, sorry. Right. Okay. I'm just going to show it to you like this because this is the way that it's going to allow me to show, right? So here we are. This is my Zoom. Can everybody see okay? Just give me, okay, thank you. This is my Zoom, right? You're going to, in your Zoom app, you're going to go to your calendar, right? And then you're going to pick the day, okay? So this is the date that you've picked, which is the 16th.
No, we
Okay.
can't see that. That's not what we're seeing.
What are you seeing?
We're seeing the same slide that was there before, scheduling a Zoom meeting, and then the notes.
Okay, all right. It means it's not letting me show you my Zoom app. Zoom itself is refused. You see, I told you Zoom has its own issues. It's not allowing me to show you my Zoom app. So let me just get onto Zoom quickly on my Zoom account so that you can see. Okay, there you should be able to see this. Now you can see my Zoom account, right? Wonderful. Okay, so we just talked about what we do with the meetings. I just want to quickly show you how you do the meetings, okay? So you go into your meetings, right?
Can you
And
maximize the
this,
page?
sorry?
Can you maximize the page?
Yes, I can maximize the page. If it's small, here we go. Is that better? Okay. So here you see all of my different meetings, right? And it tells you meeting templates. Here you go and you say schedule a meeting. You could have also done it there, which is schedule a meeting, right? So now, remember what we talked about earlier. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to put in the date. So you click here and it tells you which date to choose. We said we're going to do tomorrow. We know it's 7 p.m. Okay. Here's the time zone I was warning you about. So what time zone is it? We're going to say Johannesburg. Is this a recurring meeting? Is it going to happen more than once? Okay. And if it is, let's say we go here and we say repeat every 7 days until the 27th of August. Okay. Then here is where you would have copied and pasted from whatever document you have, where you have whether it's your email or etc., where you have the people you want this invite to go to. So I'm just going to put myself. Okay, it shows me. Then remember we talked about registration. Do you want people to register? all of you registered to come to this webinar today. So if you want registration, it tells you they can register once. It tells you if, or do you need them to register each session? This is a way for you to keep track of who's coming, okay? If you are doing some advanced things, you'd put like add whiteboard, which we'll talk about later. Right now we're doing the basics. Then you'd say here, the waiting room. This means they can come in to the session, but they'll be in the waiting room. And this is what I was saying, it gives you chance to relax and etc. before the session starts. AI companion is another advanced thing. This is if you wanted to maybe give you a script at the, or transcript at the end of the session, okay? Host video on and off. These ones you don't really have to worry about. Make sure this says telephone and computer for audio. I'm just going to show you options here. There'll be certain things depending on, you know, if you want to block somebody from a certain region or that type of thing, but most of the time you won't have to use this. We're talking about basic Zoom here. And then you save this, okay? And we've created together a meeting. Okay, so it will then ask you, do you want to add it to Google, Outlook, or Yahoo? And I'll tell you about how we can do all three. You can do that for all three of them. It also will give you a chance here for you to copy your invitation. So I'm going to copy this meeting invitation, and I'm going to stop sharing here, and I'm going to show you in the chat what that would look like. So there, that is creating a meeting. That is the basic thing. We haven't even gotten to the meeting yet, but we've created a meeting and we've gone and so I wanted to show you that first. Right. Let's go back to the sharing. All right, so we've scheduled a Zoom meeting. That's the very first thing. And as I said, you can add the meetings to Google, Outlook, or Yahoo, okay? So when you click the Google Calendar, it will immediately open in your Google Calendar in a new tab with all of the information, okay? If you click Outlook, it will do the same with that, for Outlook, so that you can have it on your calendar. Right? So why does this matter? When Zoom meetings are linked to your calendar, you're less likely to double book or forget. Plus, attendees will automatically have access to the Zoom link and meeting details. Because we've already put the information in the invitation, it goes straight to Sheila's email address. And then when she clicks on there, all the information is there. If she has synced up her Google, when she presses accept, it pops up on her calendar. So you see, it starts to become very seamless and you don't have to worry about, did they get it? Are they booked for something else, etc. Because then you can look through and see who said yes, who said no, and then you can follow up with who said no. One more pro tip where you can take this one step further is if you have a scheduling tool like Calendly or Acuity, you can sync it with Zoom. So as soon as somebody makes the appointment, they're given a Zoom invite link immediately. And that just makes your life much, much easier, okay? So that's something to remember, that you can link Zoom to your calendar. So the power of the waiting room. We talked about it a little bit, but I want to go into it a little bit because now we're in the meeting. So we've registered for the meeting and we've showed up, we've been put in the waiting room. What does that mean? It means you're in the session, so don't worry. You'll start to see a lot of people showing up and whatever. And if you're like me, that's where the butterflies start going, because you're like, oh, all these people are really coming. Oh my goodness, I can't get out of it now. That's okay. Take that time while they're in the waiting room to breathe. It's like a front porch or a lobby or a balcony where your participants land when they click the Zoom link before entering the actual meeting space. You'll get a notification as the host that somebody has joined the room. Okay, and you can choose whether or when to admit them. Why does this matter? It gives you control. You can make sure your camera, your mic, your slides are ready before people join. It's a security feature. It prevents Zoom bombing or unexpected guests from disrupting your meeting. If it's somebody you know you haven't invited, but somehow they got the leak, you can just say delete. Another thing that happens is all of us have our different AI note takers and stuff. So, that automatically come into Zoom meetings. That helps the host and the co-host to either say yes or no to the AI note takers. And it depends on the type of session. Some people do that to show that they're in the meeting, but they're not in the meeting. So it depends on what the requirement is, right? I use my first few minutes to pray, reset, center myself, whether it's a coaching session or a sensitive wellness conversation. So how do you use it? When you're scheduling the Zoom meeting, you go to security settings, which I showed you before, and check the box for enable waiting room. I showed it to you, right? And you can customize. You can put a message that says, thank you for joining. We'll begin shortly. Something like that. And so don't feel like you have to rush to admit everyone the moment they join. Take time and look for a good space where you can join, where you can have people join, because then otherwise you're going like this. And it stops the flow, right? So if you want to start strong and you want to start, and remember, this is part of the art of communication. So if you want to start strong and communicating clearly and in a very clear manner, then use your waiting room. Okay. So that's a little bit of, what do I want to say? Zoom invite for the co-host and the host. They'll put you into the Zoom. Now, Zoom invite for when you are joining a Zoom. We are all busy. But as you're joining, understand that when you're joining, unless you put to be off camera and on mute, we're going to see and hear everything you do when you first come in the meeting. Okay. So if you're going like this and you're saying with this, and you've joined my meeting late, it's going to disrupt me. So keep yourself on mute. Be careful of that. That is your etiquette for when you're coming into a meeting. Please keep yourself on mute. What I would advise when you're doing a meeting, always have a co-host. And in addition to having a co-host, if you have the luxury, have a back-end person. And this back-end person is going to be the person checking the chats. This is the person who's going to help you with the breakout rooms. You need to know what you're doing, but it helps if you have someone who can help you. So right now, I'm host. Sheila is co-host, and we have Karabo who's doing back end. And that just helps with the smoothness of running things, but you're not always going to be able to do that, and you may be on your own. So it's good to learn how to do these things, okay? So we've talked about, sending the perfect invite, all right? So I'm just gonna go backwards a little bit. Let me see. I think I said some of this about the meeting. Yeah, I said all of this. I jumped ahead of myself, so let's leave that slide. Right. So some hosting essentials that I want us to talk about. Your meeting is scheduled, your invites are out, people are starting to join. Now comes the part where you step into your power as host. So let's walk through the essential things you need to set the tone and run your meeting early. First things, start your meeting early. Everybody can go to the waiting room, but I recommend logging on 5 to 10 minutes before. Okay, I lie. I recommend, if it's your first few times, 10 to 15 before the official time. Why? This gives you time to test out your mic and your camera, because let me tell you, I don't know what happens with the little gremlins, the little hojos in the computers, but they always decide to come out right before the most important meeting. So you need to have checked your camera, okay? Test your mic, open your slides, check your notes. Some people do Zooms in very high-tech ways, and they have multiple screens. That's my next move up, is the multiple screens thing. So when you have those multiple screens and stuff, you've got to make sure everything is synced. But even if it's just your laptop, be sure there's not a lag, be sure you're on the right router, etc. And then you'll admit your co-hosts and key speakers from the waiting room. Even if your participants aren't there yet, you'll feel more grounded having your co-hosts and your participants there, and you'll feel more prepared. Then you can start admitting people from the waiting room. You can either let them in one by one or admit all. Use this time to greet people warmly. As they enter, a simple hello, so-and-so makes them feel seen, right? Rename participants if needed. If somebody joins from a phone like iPhone, mom's laptop, you can click on their name and rename them for clarity, especially in group sessions or webinars. All of you that have been on the mentors training, we always say, put your name and where you're from. Why is that? So we can get a sense of who we're talking to. And this is going to be very important for you, because you're trying to build trust and create rapport with a screen. So if I'm not able to see people's names, I don't know who to call on. I don't know who I'm talking to. It really can be unnerving on the other side here. So another way is to make sure you either have everybody name themselves, or you can rename them, okay? Then you can, if you have, if people are noisy individually, you can mute them, or you can mute all when things get noisy. Encourage people to use the chat box, encourage it, and I'll talk about that in the next slide, but also ask for reactions, encourage engagement, and encourage participants to use the hand raise, etc. That's another thing. And even, the thumbs up reaction, okay? So these are going to be some of the important things. So when you assign a co-host, if you're managing a large group, they can monitor the chat, like I said earlier, admit latecomers, so you can focus on facilitating. These are the basics. Once you've got them down, you'll appear calm, controlled, and fully present, even if you're juggling a lot behind the scenes. So now I want to talk to you about how to make the most of the chat box, which is your secret tool for feedback. So first thing, let's just, jump right into it. And it may seem like a small feature, but it's actually the most powerful engagement tool in Zoom, especially if you're leading group sessions, classes, and workshops. So let's break it down. By default, you have, and I can pull it up here and put it in here so you can see it. There you go. So you have the chat, right? And I can decide to say, hey, guys, thanks for coming. Okay, everybody gets that. But however, somebody said here, I prefer Teams over Zoom over Teams. Yeah, me too. Right. So if you decide you're going to be replying to one of the messages, okay, let me find a good one. Zoom is a nightmare, somebody said. Yes, it is. So you can decide here who you're going to message, whether
So
you're going.
we're still
Yeah.
looking at the slide that says using the chat box. We're not seeing your Zoom page.
They're not showing you the chat box.
No.
Zoom cancels itself out. Okay. Well, one of the things that you can do in the chat box, let me just discuss that with you so you can see, you can go into your chat box and check. You can either have a public chat where everybody knows, where you're telling everybody what's happening, or you can have a private chat where you're speaking to one person. And it's important to know the difference, because if you want to put to somebody in the chat like, oh my goodness, this is the most boring Zoom presentation ever, I would see it and my feelings would be hurt. So that's in general, know the difference between those two. And basically when you go to the chat window, you click the three dots and then you can choose who you want to send the message to, okay? And so what happens, I'm just gonna give you a tip. For large or very formal meetings, disable the private chats, because just in case somebody sends things to wrong people, etc. Okay, so the ways you can use your chat during your session. One is icebreakers. What I did when we first came in, one word sentence telling me about your feelings about Zoom, okay? You can use it to share links or resources, which I shared the Zoom link with you. Collect questions. You can use it as a live Q&A sessions. You can do quick polls on there, putting a question and saying type yes or no about XYZ, and just know, if you are presenting solo, it's okay to pause and check the chat every few minutes. But if possible, assign a co-host. That will make your life a little bit easier. And then Zoom gives you the option, by the way, to save the chat before the end of the meeting. And so sometimes it's useful for reviewing feedback and questions and participation engagement. So when used well, the chats can help the quieter participants find their voice and make your session more inclusive and dynamic. All right. Is everybody still here with me? Thumbs up, medium, thumbs, everybody's all right? You can use your reactions so we know you can use them. Yeah? All right, awesome. So now we're gonna switch gears and talk about something a little bit fun, how to use music during your sessions to create atmosphere, okay? So playing music during your Zoom sessions, especially during downtime, why use it at all? Because it sets a mood. I know when we're doing online cohorts and somebody's playing something like Who Runs the World, Girls, and we're going off to the bathroom, it keeps up that energy of like girl power and stuff like that. Or it can be calming before a coaching session, or energizing before a training, or just simply part of your brand experience. So if you're leading a session and there's multiple breaks, like a retreat or a masterclass, playing music during the break times can help people relax without logging off. So what do? You open your music app, whether it's Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, etc., before the session begins. Then you're going to click share screen in Zoom. Remember the share screen that I showed you earlier? And then here's the little trick that we often forget. At the bottom left of the menu, let's see if I can pull this up. When we're sharing, are you seeing my screen at the moment? No, you're not. Okay. Zoom doesn't allow us to do this, but that's okay. So what I was trying to tell you is, at the bottom of your screen, you're going to see something that says share sound. You want to share sound. This is critical, or otherwise your attendees will just see music playing. So you'll hit play after hitting share sound, and the volume will be at medium, and put it at like moderate level. And that's going to be good to set the mood, okay? And you can even use music to your advantage. Like as the people first are coming in, that 5 to 10 minutes before you start, you can have some music. And then when you're closing the session, you can have some nice and warm music as people are logging off. These are all things that just create a nice Zoom experience for people. Obviously, depending on the type of the type of Zoom meeting. For a negotiation, I probably wouldn't say so. But if you're having a Zoom meeting or a training, it would be good. So screen sharing tips. This is one of the most used features on Zoom, and it causes the biggest amount of stress. As you can see, this is my biggest gripe with working with Zoom. I will continue to be irritated with them until they fix this. Sharing your screen is not intuitive. There needs to be an easy way for them to do it, but yeah. Anyway, so screen sharing can make your presentation feel seamless and professional. When done poorly, it can lead to awkward delays, notifications popping up, or the dreaded, can you see my screen, which just, I've realized it's just part of Zoom. So let's walk through how to properly set up and share your slides, okay? So even before you launch your Zoom, get your slides ready, right? And if you're using PowerPoint, I highly recommend closing all other tabs on your computer to avoid distractions, slow performance, or pop-up notices. If you're using Google Slides, then you have the option to view your speaker notes in a separate window. Unfortunately, that does not happen with PowerPoint. So what happens with PowerPoint, which is what I do, is you've got this. Okay. What would normally happen is you'd see everything. You'd see my speaker notes. What I do before the session is I just make this a little bit smaller so that I know I'm just sharing this and then you don't have to see my speaker notes, okay? So that's one way of screen sharing. Another way, and how we got into that, is we say screen share. I know you can't see my screen, but screen share. Then we say advanced, and we say portion of the screen, and then share. Another way is to say screen, okay, and share. Now, when you do it this way, you can basically see everything, okay? So one of the things you can do here, oops, sorry. One of the things you can do is, it's not working today. Okay. I wanted to show you the zooming part, but anyways, it's not working. It's a little bit, my laptop seems to be a little bit glitchy, but anyways. But with this, you can do things like annotate. So, skipped my thing, sorry, here. So I wanted to show you how to annotate. And so it will bring up the thing and you can draw here and you can say, okay, you know, if you're talking and you feel like you need to add the drama to your slides, etc., you can annotate from here, you can highlight. Another thing you can do here is highlight. I don't use this feature very much because it's glitchy. Yeah. Okay, well, you can do it. I apologize, but here is a very bad underline. Another thing you can do is that people sometimes like to do is a laser pointer. My screen is frozen. Oh, goodness gracious. Okay, like I said, some of the joys of Zoom. Let me stop sharing and see if I can So when I say it's glitchy, trust me, I feel for you because this is the type of thing that happens. All right, let's go back to our sharing. All right, so you start to join the meeting, you share your screen, and then you present your slides. With Google, this is the way I tend to do it because when I do it this way, I can see my notes. Other people would prefer to do it a different way, where you do it through Google, I'm sorry, where you do it through your slides like this. Okay, where you're asking for, just give me 1 second, I'm putting it in presenter's view. So you say share, and then you're gonna say your screen. Share again, and you can put it here in presenter's view like this. So yeah, you can either do it like this without the speaker's notes, or you can do it like how I do it with like this with the speaker's notes or without. Most people would prefer to do it without speaker's notes because you don't want people seeing your speaker's notes. But that is just giving you the option of what it is that you can do. All right, let's move on from that. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to talk about is recording your meeting. Okay, so it's actually, this is one of the more simpler things because it can be a huge asset, especially if you're running trainings or things that you want people to review on demand. It's also good for clients and participants who couldn't attend to review what was said, especially during a planning or debrief session. To create content clips people do. Sometimes people record and they use it to create a whole course. So you're going to click record and it's going to ask you whether you're going to go to the cloud or you want it local. And local means it will save it onto your laptop. You can pause or stop recording if necessary. And then to access it, you go to the Zoom portal via recordings. And so what you're gonna do is when I'm saying the Zoom portal is you go to your desktop, and on your desktop, it will tell you all the different places things go, documents, etc. And at the bottom, there'll be Zoom. And then you'll be able to click on recordings, and then it will do it by day. And then you just share the link or you download it or upload it. Often what I do is I upload it to an email and then send an email out. All right. So breakout rooms and co-hosting. These are also two tools that make your Zoom sessions more interactive and collaborative, especially for workshops. Breakout rooms is basically where you're splitting your participants into smaller groups. And this is one of the things that people often feel very nervous about. Okay, so the trick with the breakout rooms is I would advise to do it before the session, but if you honestly and truly don't care and you just know there's 35 people and you want 5 in each group, you can, at the time when you want the breakout groups, you click on breakout groups. When you get into breakout groups, it's going to ask you how many groups, and you tell it 5 groups, 2 groups, 10 groups, according to how many people that you have. And then it will send people into the groups. Okay, it will put people into groups. Then when you want them to go to the groups, and then you have that there already, you can do this before or you can do this at the time. When you're ready for them to go to the groups is then when you press open launch. I think it says launch or open breakout groups, and then it sends everybody to the breakout groups. So these are great for small group discussions. If you've done online mentoring, this is what we use for our circles. It's good for icebreakers, brainstorming, any kind of exercises, right? And so it's on your toolbar. Everybody, can you give me a show of hands? Are you seeing the breakout room on your Zoom toolbar? Maybe if you're not on a phone, I don't know if you can see it on the phone, but on your laptop, are you seeing the Zoom breakout groups? If I can see a show of hands. And Zoom just did a new update today, so I hope it hasn't moved things around because it has a bad habit of doing that. Can you see it on the bottom on your toolbar? Okay, we can see them. Okay, we got a few people, right. Once you've sent everybody to your breakout rooms, the next thing you're going to do is set your timer so that you can know when it's going to close. And you can even, it will ask you if you want to broadcast a message. That means you're sending a message where you're saying to everybody, okay, guys, we've only got 2 minutes left. Okay, guys, we've only got 5 minutes left, etc. And then it will ask you if you want to retrieve everybody from the breakout room. And this is the part people like the least, because it kind of yanks you out. It gives you a little bit of a warning that there's 30 seconds, but then it yanks you out of the room. And so it never gives everybody the chance to finish off their last statement. So often people come back into the plenary, into the main area, still talking, thinking they're talking to the people in the breakout rooms. Just understand, don't feel nervous about that, because no matter what you try to do, there will never be enough time in the breakout rooms. There will always be somebody complaining, but just try to make sure you're letting people know. As a host, you can also have the option when you go to the tab for breakout rooms, it also gives you an option if you want to join a room. So you can join a room, talk to the participants a little bit, and then come back out. When you, as the host, are sitting and waiting for people as they go in breakout rooms, it's the normal Zoom screen that we see, and we normally have everybody's faces and everybody's cameras and etc. It's the normal thing like that, but it will be blank because it will either just be you and your co-host or you alone. Okay, so don't panic and think I've sent off everybody, Lord knows where, and my meeting is over. No, you'll be able to retrieve them at the end of the time, and you won't be seeing them here on the screen, but you can track who has gone to the breakout rooms and who may be absconded from the meeting once you send people to the breakout rooms, okay? So a pro tip for glitch-free meetings. First thing is to have a backup plan. If your Wi-Fi is shaky, have a mobile data hotspot ready or a phone ready to rejoin via the Zoom app. If you're leading a high-stakes session, like I said, have a co-host in place to take over in case you get disconnected. I can't tell you how many times I've had to rejoin from my phone while traveling and kept the session going because I had the backup support from my phone. Turn on Do Not Disturb on all devices. This prevents pop-ups, WhatsApp messages, email alerts from showing when you're sharing a screen. And another thing is you can do certain what do I want to say, shortcuts, like mute all. You can do Control-Shift-M to start and stop the screen sharing. You can do Alt plus S or Command. I think on a Mac it's Command Shift and S. But those are some of the things as you get more, what do I want to say?
Tech savvy.
Thank you. I was about to say you get more fluent in Zoominese, but yeah. And so, and always remember, try to rename yourself with your role, like Duwa host or Duwa facilitator, etc. It helps participants to know who to reach out to during the session, especially if they've come late. So another tip I would say is have your slides open and ready before screen sharing, okay? Because then you'll be able to get to them quickly. There's a couple of these which are a little bit more advanced, but I want to go through them so you hear about them. And then you can see when you feel confident to introduce them. The first one is whiteboard, and that's a digital canvas where participants can write, draw, type, and brainstorm in real time. So to show you what that would look like here, new whiteboard. All right. My whiteboard has shown up, yes? You're seeing the whiteboard?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
great. So for my whiteboard, if you're doing, let's say, a Zoom session on, a session on brainstorming Zoom, okay? Here we put the pen. Oops, Zoom. Okay, so that's our first word, is Zoom. Now from here, you can either open it up to have participants do it, or as you're talking and you're saying, okay, Sheila says something else, you can add to it. Sheila, go for it. I see you trying. Everybody else, try and type and see if you can type into onto the screen. So that's, yeah, you see? That's how you use, so we could say, okay, guys, what are our feelings about Zoom? And then you can write them up there. I see we're having fun. I love that. All right. So I am going to come out of this. This is the whiteboard. Okay, I'm closing the whiteboard for now. And that gives you a little bit of an idea of how to use it. It's good for vision boards, for icebreakers, for expanding on complex topics. So start thinking about how clever would I look using what you call this, a Zoom whiteboard, right? The next one I want to show you quickly is launching a poll. Now, oh, the Zoom is going to be Zoom. I don't think it will show you the poll if I haven't launched it. Okay, let's see. I have an old one. Okay, are you able to see the poll?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the poll that we were doing, ethics and values in decision making, and so this was one of the polls that we did, right? And so then you'd be able to get the QR code as participants. Okay, you would get the QR code. And then you would participate with the poll. So I'll end that. So that's another thing that you can do, that, and then you can share the results. This is another thing that you can do to take your Zoom, what you want to say, your Zoom meeting to the next level after you've mastered the original, the basics. The thing with the polls, with launching the polls, is you have to do the polls ahead of time. So some of these things have to be done ahead of time. So that's not all, if you didn't think of it before, then yeah, that would be a problem. So yeah, that one is good for doing ahead of time. And then the final thing, yeah, so that was the last thing that I wanted to talk to you about, is the setting up the poll. So finally then, I know we started a little bit late, so we've only got a couple of minutes, but I wanted to let you know that there are a few resources that I'm going to send, like a cheat sheet. And I believe this is being recorded, so you should be able to get the replay access guide. And yeah, those are the two things I wanted to tell you about before we did question and answer. And via email, I would like to be able to give you some bonuses. One is the pre-meeting checklist. So everything you need to do before you start your Zoom meeting. And then the other one is like a Zoom cheat sheet, so that you'll be able to see, it written out. 1, do this, 2, do this, etc. The thing that I'm going to tell you at the end of the day is, for you to feel like you're mastering Zoom, you've got to play on it. You've just got to set up a meeting and play. Because it doesn't matter how much you get via videos or whatever, until you try it yourself, you won't completely understand what's being said. So my advice to you is block out an hour this weekend once you get the cheat sheet and try a few things and see how they work, etc. I'm going to very lovingly put in my email, and if you have further questions, I'll put it in the chat. If you have further questions, please feel free to drop me a note and say, okay, Duwa, I don't know what I'm doing here. And in as much that I can help, I will try to do so. So there's my email. But thank you so much for sitting with me today. I hope this demystified a little bit. Is there any pressing question that anyone had? Sheila?
Well, a question that came up when we started to advertise this talk was, are you able to do one for Teams?
No.
Okay.
Teams and I are a battle. I use Teams when I have to, but I wouldn't feel confident. No, Teams is, and I do not have much love, but I will ask around in case anybody I know is a Teams warrior who would be able to do that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any questions? I would love to see, I know most people their screens are blank, so that's okay. But I would love to just see from a show of hands or etc. Is any of this information helpful? One of the things I'd also say is, sorry, we only have an hour. And I wish we had more time because there's so much more I'd love to tell you about it. But this is meant to give you just a little bit of a, more security doing it, and then keep trying, keep doing, and it's okay. When you make a mistake, just say, mistake. No, but those who judge you probably don't even know how to do it either. All right, so I see there's no pressing questions. So thank you all so much. Thank you for joining. And I look forward to sending you the rest of the information so that you can feel armed and ready and look very, very smart and clever to your boss for your next Zoom meeting. Yes.
Thank you very much, Duwa. We appreciate your time and sharing your expertise. Yeah, any information you can forward to Karabo, and then she will share with all participants. Thank you to everyone who has taken time to join as well. We hope this brief session has given you the confidence to either participate in or to lead an online cohort. As we said, it's not only for G4G. This is information that you can use beyond and above in your workplace, in your personal capacity, whatever the case may be. So thank you to everybody and have a great evening.
Bye-bye now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.